Most agents treat cold calling just like a numbers game. Just dial more, talk to more people, and eventually someone will say yes. That's exactly why most agents quit the phones inside a year. I've made over 20,000 calls and sold $190 million of property in 3.5 years. And I can tell you, cold calling is a skill and targeting game. The script does matter, but who you say it to at the right time matters even more. In this video, I'm breaking down the exact cold call strategy I use to get there. The scripts, the way I filter real sellers, and the mental approach that keeps you calling when most people fold. The first thing in real estate is to realize that only 3.7% of people are going to sell their property in the next 12 months. So what that means is 3.7 people out of 100 people are going to sell their properties. That's 1 out of 37 is going to sell in the next 12 months. So if you do 40 cold call connects, you might speak to one potential seller in the next 12 months. Our job in real estate is to sort the people into the potential sellers versus the not potential sellers. And this is what we can do. Either we can book in a meeting if they do have strong interest to sell, or we can nurture them and create a relationship if they have a long-term plan to sell. Because around 10% of people are going to sell their property in the next 3 years. So we want to try identify that 10% and then keep in touch with those 10% until they are ready. Not just focus on the 1% that are going to sell in the next 3 months. And lastly, we're going to park the people that have no interest. 90% of people are not going to sell their property in the next 3 years. So we need to capture their interest, not speak to them on the call for 2 or 5 or 10 minutes because you're just wasting time, but we want to identify them and then say thank you for your time, we'll keep in touch, and then just give them a call in 3 months' time, because those people are low motivation. Maybe things will change, but maybe they won't change, and it's just a waste of time to speak to them because they have no interest in the next 3 years. There's a few techniques that we use to maximize our success as real estate agents on the call. Firstly is to own the first 10 seconds. We need to appear sharp, confident, and display all of our words clear so the vendor and person can hear what we're saying, because they're always thinking, who's calling me, what do they want, why are they calling me, and what the hell do I care? Because maybe some other people are calling them for prospecting Google ads, maybe people are cold calling them for other random stuff, and they just want to sometimes end the call quickly. So we need to be sharp, clear, and concise. It's very important to say the person's name and also the address. You do want to say, hey John, hope you're well, the reason for the call, and then even say their address. I just saw your property, 24 Smith Street. Because you're saying these words, the most favorite word for people is their personal name. So if you say their name, then they know that there might be a chance that you know them. And if you say their address, then they know, okay, you're talking about my property over there. So that creates some common ground. Next thing, we need to compliment the property. If the vendor's ever telling you about their property and say, look, I've done renovations here, or we've done this and this, you really want to be saying, wow, excellent, that's great, beautiful. Because the more they hear that you are complimenting their property, the more they are likely to want to work with you because they see that you like their property. Next thing, we need to find common ground. If you're saying we've sold a property around your area, on your street, or around the corner, naming similar streets or similar suburbs, then they're going to be more likely to want to work with us because we are talking about common area. If we say, oh, we sold a property 40 kilometers away from you and it was a big piece of land and they don't care about the land sales, then there's just no common ground over there. There's a lot of people that do want to have a quick market update, either just an email appraisal or maybe just to send some documents through, but we really want to justify that visit. So what I like to say is the market's moving quite fast. I do need to see your property in person to actually give you an appraisal. So what we want to do is we do want to justify the visit of why we need to see their property if we want to book an appraisal, because we want to give them an accurate appraisal. We don't want to just give an appraisal based on thinking about what it's worth and imagining the property. You say, look, I haven't seen your property. How can I tell you what it's worth? If I just give you a price on the phone, then I'll be lying. So I do need to see it for 10 or 15 minutes to give you an accurate appraisal. And lastly, we can trade our time for work. So if you are going to be doing some research, you can say, look, I'm going to do 1 to 2 hours of research on your property. Is it okay that you can give me 20 minutes of your time to go through the research so we can give you an accurate assessment of the property value? The next thing to realize is why people actually sell. Now, there's only generally 7 core reasons why they're going to sell. And it's normally a forced reason. People don't just wake up and decide, look, I'm going to sell my property. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to sell it, make all the money, and I'm just going to spend it all. There really needs to be a core, strong pull. And normally it's a pull of pain or discomfort, because people are painful. If they're in a bad situation, then they want to sell their property. So the core reasons of why we see people sell is because normally there's an estate or death Let's say there's a death in the property, someone's died, and now they need to sell the property and downsize. So that's a strong reason of why I want to sell. Next thing is upsizing. The house is too small. They need to get a bigger house. There's too many kids in the house and they have to upsize. They are uncomfortable and they need to move now. So that's another reason on why people would move. Next is school zone. The school zone, they are focusing on their kids' location. They care about their kids. They don't want the pain of putting their kid into a bad school zone, so they have to move because of the school zone. Next is relocation. They're moving countries. They're moving in an area. They don't want to drive 1 hour. The pain of their terrible job right here, it was going to be removed. They're going to get a great job, but now they don't want the pain of driving so far. So relocation, a very strong core reason. Next is the debt and mortgage. Let's say we say, can you hold another 1 year? And they say, no, my mortgage is too high, the debt's too strong. This is another strong reason on why people will have to sell, is because their debt is so strong. If you say, oh, can you hold another year? And they're like, yeah, we've got some debt, but yeah, we can hold a year or two. Then we know that they are less likely to sell on that debt reason. Next is separation. Husband and wife, they hate each other's guts. They have to sell it. They want to split up. Sometimes these can be quite tricky because the husband or the wife wants more and the other one wants less, and that can be a bit of a tricky situation, but sometimes they just want to get away from each other. So this is another core strong reason of why people sell. And then it could be moving in with family. Let's say they're getting old, they want to downsize, or they want to consolidate their money for a family. That's another way that people would be forced to sell, is because they just don't need the house anymore. And lastly, you could get a person that says, look, if I get this magical price and I want to move. Now there are maybe 20 or 30% of people that will sell if they get the right magical price, but that's typically on a more hotter or warm market. These are just the standard reasons that people will always sell, and that's important to realize, is that these are the core reasons of why people sell. But then the hot market, there's always potential that yes, if they get the right price, then they will make a move. So when I do appraisals on people that are looking to sell their property, is if they're only going to move because the price is right, that's when I would be focusing on giving them a very, very realistic appraisal, because I don't want to overpitch the appraisal, take the listing, then say they turn around 3 months later to say, look, actually, the price didn't work, I'm not going to sell. But if they have a very strong core reason, there's a forced sale or they have to sell and there's a strong reason, we might actually say, look, optimistically, we'll push our appraisal a bit more higher to win the business. Because at the end of the day, the motivation trumps price. The price becomes totally irrelevant if they have a strong enough motivation. We've taken on listings where a vendor wants 1.7, then she sells 1.35 million 3 weeks later, because their motivation of downsizing and getting out the property was so strong. So don't be afraid of people overpricing their property if they have a strong motivation. And also another thing to realize is 20% of properties will not sell. So let's say you might not be the right agent, or there might be some issues, 20% just will not sell. So don't worry about those. We want to focus on the ones that are sellable and that can sell. So we got 5 core scripts that we use to effectively find out and identify, is this a potential seller, and then moving on. And the most important things for these core scripts, let's keep it short. 2-minute call strips. We don't want to be speaking for longer than 2 minutes unless we're booking an appraisal. We want to be friendly, energetic, smile. So hold a pen in your mouth and smile, or laugh, fake laugh, and just get your energy levels up. When doing cold calls, we want to have an open, expanded chest, either a standing desk, or when you're sitting, you do want to be expanded. And when we talk, we want to talk through the phone. We don't want to be talking into the phone and whispering like a cold call. We don't want to be whispering. We want to be talking through it, have the energy, because someone picks up their phone, they've got an old phone, the speaker's terrible, and maybe they got it on 50% volume. If you're going to whisper it, they might not be able to hear what you're saying. So by talking loud, precise, smile, have energy, then you're going to capture the attention, because people have so many things happening. All these crazy things are happening in their life. Maybe they're at the shopping center now, maybe they're running around in between meetings, and now you've got to call them and you've got to capture the attention. You've got to grab the attention. If you don't grab the attention, they're going to say, no, sorry, I've got a meeting, I'm busy, and they might just make up an excuse of why they can't speak right now. But if you can grab that attention, they are more likely to hold for the next 30 seconds, and then maybe the next 2 minutes where you can actually dig a bit deeper into their personal situation. So these are the basic scripts that we use in our Limitless style over here. So the first thing is just a recent auction in the suburb. We have, hello John, hope you're doing well. It's Lawrence from Limitless Real Estate. I keep it basic. I don't say how you're doing and how's your day going. I just get right into it, because if let's say you say how you're doing to 100 people, those 100 people in 2 months, they don't know who you are. Unless it's a warmer call, you can ask them and you've met them before. But if you don't know them, I just get right into it. The reason for the call: we had a big auction, sold a home in that area. Several cash buyers are missed out. For example, we say we sold 25 Smith Street, Papatoetoe, 25 cash buyers missed out. And then we jump into the question: do you have any plans to sell at any stage with your property? And if they say yes, then we can say, great, what's the plan? And then we move into qualifying questions. So we'll go through that shortly, the 10 different qualifying questions that we use. If they say no, then you just say, no problem. Based on your situation, when should we speak again? Or do you have any plans at any time in the future with your property? So by saying any time, we put a long-term time frame, potentially on 3 or 4 years, just to identify, are there a potential seller to keep in touch with? If they said, yes, I've got plans to sell, okay, we've talked about that. And then once we've gone through all the qualifying questions, we can book in the appraisal. We can say, look, what we can do is give you a market update on your property. It takes 30 minutes. How does Tuesday or Thursday, 4 or 6 p.m. work? So I'm not saying we're doing a property appraisal to sell your property. I'm not telling them that we're forcing them to sell, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying, look, we're going to give you an update to help you make better decisions moving forward. Script 2, the past open home attendee. Hello, hope you're doing well. Lawrence from Limitless Real Estate. You came through our open home at this X address. Just check in, have you bought a property yet? If they bought one, then we can identify what their property, where it is. Then I say, great, as the property market expert, do you mind if I send my business card in the mail just so you've got my details? And they might say, yep, here's my address. So then we use that as a Trojan horse to grab their address. If they haven't bought a property, we still need to check, are they a potential seller? So then I'll say, look, do you already own a property, or do you own a property locally? They might say yes. Then you say, look, at the right price, would you consider selling? Every buyer we speak to, every person we meet in public, we just say, look, do you own locally? Do you have any plans of selling at any time in the future? Just a nice basic script over there. If they've got no ownership, they've got no property, I'll just say, no problem, we'll keep you updated with the new listings coming through. Have a great day. And I will text them any new listings or email them. I'm not going to manually call. In your market, you might manually call all the buyers, but we use a lot of mass blast text and email text to keep in touch with all the buyers. The next is a recent sale if we have a massive result, and just telling all the buyers or any local homeowners. Hello John, hope you're doing well. It's Lawrence from Limitless Real Estate. The reason of the call: we just sold a home nearby. We sold 13 Hill Road, Papatoetoe, 1,000 land at auction. It went $300,000 over the owner's reserve. We've got 40 buyers that missed out. And then I can just pause and just wait for the vendor to respond. And they might say, wow, excellent. Or they might even say, look, excellent, thank you, I've got no plans of selling. So they might even respond to that, but you're just letting them know of a great result close to their property. And then you can say, just checking, at the right price, would you consider selling? Or you can ask, do you have any plans of selling at any stage in the future? If yes, then we go to qualify. If not, no problem, have a great day, and wrap it up. Quick and easy. Just sold over the reserve. If you had a great property sell over reserve, similar type of script, just saying we sold this one over the reserve. So quite similar to the previous one. This is a very direct call. Now there is one guy, Hannon Cowley. Now he did $1 million in commission just from outbound calls. And what he did was he would focus on 50 outbound calls at the start of his day, every time. And it'll be a super basic script. Hi, hope you're doing well. It's Lawrence from Limitless Real Estate. The market's really busy with buyers right now. Just checking, at the right price, would you consider selling? Super basic. It's a low success rate, but it's quick and it converts people if they are thinking of selling. If someone says maybe, then we need to go straight into the qualifying questions. So it's a low success rate, but we're going to identify the sellers quick. And this is just a 30-second call. 30 seconds, boom, 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 boom. If you speak to 25 people, you should be able to do this in an hour and a half, all wrapped up 25 people, which is around 50 calls. So once we've done all these calls, we've moved through, say we've done 50 dials, we've spoken to 25 people. Now there's going to be 2 or 3 people that we need to dig in a bit deeper into qualifying questions. We might ask these questions in conversation to some of these potential vendors, but if someone has definite interest to say, yes, I'm thinking of selling, I want to get an appraisal, then I will try go through all of these questions. And the important thing is to best help them. Now, with these qualifying questions, if we ask them all over here, we don't have to ask them in person, and we can actually read them before we go into the meeting, so we understand exactly their situation. So the first things that we can say is, why are you selling, or what's the next plan? So just digging into what's their motivation so we know what it is. Next thing is, for your next home, where you're moving to, how many bedrooms do you want, how big is the land area, what exactly do you want for that next property? The next one we can say, for your time frame, what is the time frame to get on the market? Is it 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? just to get a date of time frame. If they say 12 months, then I know, okay, I'll keep in touch with them every month or 2 months until they are ready to sell. Then I'll say, tell me about your property. Have you done any renovations? How many bedrooms is it? Because they can explain their property in detail, now I can do my full appraisal to them, and I don't need to go to their property once and twice to do the appraisal. I can just go there once. I've got all my recent sales that are similar to their property, and I can sign up the property straight away. We do the one meeting, one close. The pivot. This is once I've gone into some qualifying questions, and if they are not too keen on getting an appraisal, or they're just still thinking about it, then I can say, and I want to create a nice soft approach to meet them, I can say, look, how about we do some research on some recent sales to give you an accurate price update on your home? Would you like an update on your home to make better decisions in the future? So I'm not saying, do you want a free appraisal? I'm just saying, would you like an update on the market to help you make better decisions moving forward? And I can say, I do 10 or 15 of these every single week, even if you're not selling. So it's just a free update. Like we've sold properties where we did an appraisal for one person. We sold the property 1 year later. They called us 1 year later. We've been texting them updates, and now they decide, okay, I'm ready to sell now. Another thing we ask is, are you speaking to other agents? They might say, yes, I've had 3 agents out, and now I'm going to definitely sell my property. Now you know this is a hot seller. You might want to give them the best fee, maybe a good marketing option, and you know that you're up against other agents. So this is another key question. We like to ask them, how much is left on your mortgage? Because our property market has dropped 20 to 30%, there's a lot of sellers that want to sell, but physically they cannot sell because their debt is too high. So I say, how much is your mortgage? And then I can work out on our calculator, what's their lending capacity, what's their income, and physically work out what they can potentially buy. Because if their dream home is $300,000 more and they can't afford that, it's just a waste of time to go and appraise them because the numbers physically do not work. Do you have a dream home for your property? Do you have a golden price, or what do you want for your property? Just ask the vendor. They might say, oh, I want $900,000, I want $1 million. Or they might say, you're the agent, you should tell me. And if they say that, I'll say, no problem, I'll get some really good research and I'll let you know. Now, when we do the appraisal, I'll go through all the recent sales, and then I'll say, based on these sales, what do you think it's worth? So I'm always trying to fish for that price out of them first, because if I can get a price out of them, then when I tell them the price, when I tell them what I think it's worth, I can always say that price is potentially achievable if we have the right competition. But if I tell them, oh, I think it's worth 700 to 800, and they say, oh, I wanted 900, then I'm immediately discounting myself, and they see me as an agent that does not believe that 900 can be achieved. So the important thing is try to get a price out of them so you can include your price into their appraisal range, and you've got a better chance at winning the business. And that's only if they have a strong motivation. If they've got a weak motivation, then I'm not going to say we can try and get your price. I'd rather say this is the realistic appraisal range, and if it's not there, maybe let's just wait a year or two. There's at least 20 or 30% of people I'll say, let's not sell right now because the market's just not ready. I think let's keep in touch over the next 1 or 2 years and see how things go. And they'll say, thank you for giving me an honest appraisal. Much appreciated. Availability. Now, I always try to do meetings in the evening because then you use the morning for the calling. You need high energy for the morning. So in the evening, that's when we do all of our appraisals. So we say, look, anytime in the afternoons when you are both available. So that's so important. We want ownership. So is it just yourself that owns the property, or do you own it with someone else? So if you do an appraisal with the main decision maker, but then the other decision maker is also not there, you've just wasted a whole hour of your life. So we always want both decision makers available for our meeting time. That is key. We've lost $200,000 plus commission potential because we didn't meet all decision makers. So that's one key. Then I see when you're both free in the afternoons, I say 2 or 4 p.m. Or if they say, oh, I'm not free for work, then I'll say, look, we're very flexible. We work 6, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. at night. It's so flexible. The real estate agents that are available more times in their calendar have more opportunity to make money because they are free when the vendor is free. If you can make your schedule free at 8, 9 p.m. at night, if you can be free on the weekend, in the morning, in the evening, you will have a better chance at getting more listings. If you say, oh, sorry, I'm busy there, I'm only free in a week's time at that particular time, or you force a time when the vendor's maybe not free, then it's a reschedule and then listing gets signed up. So I've booked in meetings where I said, look, I can't make it now and I have to book it two days later. then the vendor calls me, look, I've signed up with another agent already. So the more flexible you are with your time, the more money you will make when booking appraisals. Capture the details, always get full name, email address. We do want to send them a text, an email, and full confirmation and an email calendar invite. And then another email showing our team profile and then also our agency agreement. So the more points of contact we can give them before we meet them, the more they are trusting us as an agent. So we try to deliver at least 5 to 7 touch points before we meet them through text, email, call, because now if we're up against other agents that only point them with 1 touch point and we've got 7, they're like, wow, this person is on drugs. They're crazy. They're just texting me, calling me. This is what they're going to be like when they sell my property with all the buyers. So if you can demonstrate your skills to show the vendor, I'm in touch with you so much, this is what I'm going to be like when we're selling your property, they're going to be like, I want this agent on my team. And lastly, I tell them, look, we'll send you a confirmation text with calendar invite and an email about all of our resources and some selling tips. So I physically tell them what they're going to receive on email and they'll be like, okay, excellent. Lastly is the power phrases. Now, when we speak to vendors, there are short phrases that we can tell them to deliver extreme value. So the power phrases show us as a professional, shows the market as busy, and convinces them that this is a good time to sell. We're not trying to convince them to sell, but we want to give a short phrase just so that we can convince them that it's a good time to meet up. When we go meet up, we've got more information that we can sell them. But these are power phrases that we use all the time. Our team has done 70 auctions in the last 12 months. They're like, wow, okay, I must be speaking to a professional. We're running at an 80% success rate at auction. Wow, these guys are selling great at auctions. Next thing, we don't say all of these, but we'll say one of them scattered through. If they say, how's the market going? Or auctions are not working too well, then we'll say, look, we're selling 80% at auction right now. They're like, wow, we sell $30,000 on average over owner's expectations. Or I'll say, we sold 13 Hill Road, $350,000 more than what the owner wanted. And they're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Now I can say, we want to do that for you. So these are another short power phrase. We're selling properties on average 23 days on average. They'll say the market's slow, it must not be a good time to sell. I'll say, we're selling properties on average 23 days. And they're like, what? Wow, that's amazing. So these are some more power. The market framing. Now, if the market's not too good, we'll say, look, if you sell a bit lower today, you also buy lower. So it's a really strong time to upsize. You sell a bit lower here, you're going to buy lower. This is the best time to upsize because those properties have never been cheaper. The gap between what you sell today and you buy has never been smaller. The gap between selling a property and buying a property have never been smaller. This is a great time to sell and buy. And then I just wrap up to say, what we can do is we can bring through some recent sales to help you make better decisions in the future. And I always say in person. The key is in person. To convert people to listings, the conversion happens through conversation in person. They're not going to list with someone that they just spoke on the phone and then they sign up the listing. They're going to list with someone they connect with because they want to proof check that you're going to be okay with buyers in person. If they just give it to a random person, then that person that comes through their property, it's a risk for them. So always in person is where the conversation is. So there we go. That is the full script over here. If you want the system over here, send us a DM on Instagram scripts and we can send it through to you, or send a message down below and we can send it through to you and we'll give you that full PDF course. Follow, like, and subscribe. If you want the next video on how I went from $200,000 to $1.8 million, click this next video below.